Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 4? Yes, episode 4. I know there's been like live videos and stuff in between there, although they haven't really worked great. But we are back again today for Thursday, so I'm keeping up with my trying to make at least 2 videos plus a week, which isn't necessarily super easy. One of the things that's really important when you're talking about writing is that sometimes you struggle with a little bit of motivation. I know the number one rule for how to become a better writer is to keep writing, but I gotta tell you, this is hard sometimes. Like, let's be honest about that. It's hard, and sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it today, but I'm gonna force myself to write 500 words. And I'm not gonna just do that, because I sort of think like watching the writing is boring. I try to talk while I'm doing it to let you know what I'm thinking, but I still don't think it's necessarily the most engaging part of the videos to watch. So what I want to do today is I posted those videos yesterday on Brandon Sanderson's Laws of Magic. And again, as I put in the post, that Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite authors. And one of the reasons I like him is he creates amazing magic systems. Now, what a magic system is, if you don't know, is it's just basically he creates a rules framework for how magic in his world works. And he's got several series of books that all have different magic systems, and some of those are related to each other, but they all work differently, and they're all really creative. And it's amazing to me that he's able to create so many different and yet still really interesting magic systems in his books, and they all follow his rules, and they're all incredibly satisfying to watch work or as you read. So what I want to do today is I want to brainstorm a little bit with his 3 laws of magic in terms of Umbra. So I'm going to, it's sort of like spoilers how Umbra's magic is going to work. As much as we can kind of pre-plan it. Because if we can pre-plan where we want the magic to work, then we can part hints of it in the beginning, which will make for a more satisfying conclusion. Thank you to Eric, who went into the draft and made a bunch of typographical and mechanical edits in the comments, which is very helpful. I will go through in those and double check them and apply them, but I'm going to strongly encourage more of you to go in and just respond to what's going on. It's the one way we can make this interactive, and it's going to be kind of a bummer if nobody goes in and comments. So that's your library homework. Come on, do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a quick rehash of the Sanderson Laws of Magic. And then I'm going to go back to our brainstorming document for Umbra, and I'm going to try to puzzle out some of those things. I'm going to try to not take much more than 10, 15 minutes, and then I'm going to write 500 words. Now, our part 1 that we wrote of Umbra was about 1850 words, I think. And let's see here. Let's see, word count. There we go. 1819. Okay, so Umbra right now is 1,819 words. That will be expanded when we go back through and do editing. Okay, so this is draft 1. A lot of draft 1 is going to get changed, thrown out, added to. My anticipation is that we'll probably expand this part 1 by a good 1,000 words. Because I already have some ideas in my head of things I want to go back in and add. I want to add in some more of Safine's thoughts and things like that to start creating more of a voice for her. Okay? And give her a little bit of scrappiness. I want her to be a little scrappy. So let's review the Sanderson Laws of Magic. I'm going to take you right now to Screencast, and I'm going to take you to a website called Coppermind, which is a fan website dedicated to Brandon Sanderson, but they have like a Wikipedia style page that outlines all of his laws. So let's switch over to screencasting. All right. Sanderson's Laws of Magic. Here we go. An author's ability to solve a conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands the magic. Okay. If you don't understand what that means, let me explain it. That means, remember, we talked about how the entire thing has to be based around solving a conflict, right? So if our entire, oh, I did notice this. Let me do this. Zoom. Fit. I'll try to keep this up towards the top. An author's ability to solve a conflict with magic directly proportional to how well the reader understands the magic. That means that it's more satisfying for the reader if they can figure out how the character could use the magic to solve the problem. If they have no idea how the magic works, like his example he uses is Lord of the Rings. Gandalf just sort of is vague, like, I'm Gandalf, I have a staff, and I do things, and things happen. We don't know how it works. We don't know what he's actually doing, okay? As opposed to, in a Brandon Sanderson novel, you know, like the rules. There are people who like literally will sit around debating the rules. In one of his series, there's a whole bunch of people who keep asking him questions and trying to puzzle out how the characters are going to use magic to create faster than light space travel. And they're able to come up with formulas for how to apply his magic to make that happen. And he's commented that they're moving along the right tracks, figuring it out. So that's very satisfying for those people because they can figure it out. So I'm not going to, and then let's move to 2. Limitations are greater than power. I think that's going to be, stop that, go away. Stop that, go away. Limitations are greater than power. That means it's much more interesting what magic can't do. It's much more interesting. If I have a wizard staff, and my wizard staff allows me the power to make whatever I want to happen, that's boring. Okay? We're going to have some limitations. We might end up starting here. Weaknesses and costs. Yes. So, limitations, weaknesses, and costs. We'll get to that. So let's go back to here. So this is, we're going to create some subsection. Limitations, weaknesses, and costs. All right. And then the third law of magic, expand on what you have already before adding something new. So that's basically, again, related to this idea that if we establish a magic system where a character can shoot fire from their hands, that's it, fire from their hands. And that's how they're solving all the problems. And then we get up to the final conflict of our story. And all of a sudden, in that moment, they learn how to shoot ice from their hands, and that solves the problem. That's not very satisfying. You didn't expand on what was there. You changed it. You changed it to fit the problem. That's cheating. And, unless you've established that there's something going on. There was a cartoon show that my son is rewatching right now called Ben 10. And in this, it's about a boy who can change into monsters. Okay? And he uses that to fight villains. And one of his monsters, or one of his creatures he turns into, is a big fiery guy. And there's an episode where he gets a cold. Ben, the little boy, catches a cold, like a summer flu or something like that. And when he transforms into the flame character, the flames are ice flames. That's not cheating. That is expanding. There's a logical reason for it. He's got a cold. It reversed his powers. Okay? So we're going to expand on what we have already before we add on something new. That means we're not going to just switch from someone who's been fire the entire story, then, oh, hey, ice, bzz, and I win. That's lame. Okay? So we'll expand. So here we go. 3 oh, and the 0th rule, which I always like the 0th rule. Err on the side of awesome. And now, err means error. So if we're going to err on the side of awesome, what that means is that we're going to, if we have to decide how something's going to work, pick the way that's going to be the coolest. Okay? Because this is fantasy. We're not writing fantasy to depress us. We're writing fantasy to create an escape, right? So let's talk about Umbra. Here we are. I'm going to double check this. Yeah, we're looking good. Magic system. So I don't think we can really touch on this first point yet. We don't even know how the magic system works, so we can't explain how that. We're going to try and write our magic so that the reader can understand it. That's how we apply the first rule, okay? Let's talk about this. This is where I want to focus on today. Limitations and power. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to actually talk about erring on the side of awesome, the 0th rule, okay? So what is our power? And we've already established this, okay? We've established it in just sort of how we've talked. Okay? Our hero, Safine, has the ability to use her shadow as an extension. Whoa! I can spell. Of herself. She can use it to create longer limbs, weapons, or even an entire second body. Now, I'm jumping to sort of how I envision it at the end. Again, we're going to be this, remember this law 3, we're going to start small and build it up, okay? So Safine, basically, honestly, I think of the Safine's power sort of like Green Lantern, only with shadows, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. It's Green Lantern with shadows. She can basically make her shadow shape things, okay? That's really cool. She can create a body for herself out of shadows, okay? And there's all sorts of neat things we can do with that. Safine has the ability to use her shadow as an extension of herself. She can use it to create longer limbs, weapons, or even an entire second body. She can use it to, eventually, to travel between shadows, maybe? That's maybe a possible, okay? That might be overpowered. And that's sort of it. That's it. That's Safine's power. But that's going to be a really big, powerful power in this story that we're creating. Okay, so that's awesome. I think that's awesome. We're going to go with it. So Safine has the ability to use her shadow as an extension of herself. She can use it to create longer limbs, weapons, or even an entire second body. That should come in progression. All right. So like maybe it starts with limbs. She can make her limbs. She can like reach and grab things, okay? Then it starts to shapes that are not her own body. Like she can create a sword out of shadows. Oh, that'd be cool. Then full body transformation. So like it's like leveling up the power, right? Starts with limbs, then it's to non-organic shapes, then it's to my full body transformation, okay? She shouldn't be able to do this at the beginning. She should have to start with this, and then after a while, slowly work and build an extent. Now, if we do that, we're meeting 3, okay? That means Safine's powers grow over time and develop as the story progresses. That means we're not going to just all of a sudden decide she can change her shape into her full body. She's going to work at it. Maybe she starts with 1 limb and then she can't do 2. And then that ties us back to 1. So now let's get to this first part. Limitations. Limitations are greater than power. Okay? So, what are her limitations? So let's say at first, the shadow can't be larger than, well, I mean, let's talk about the first, actually, let's go back. The very first limitation, if you think about it, let's just think about logical limitations of a shadow, okay? A shadow needs light, okay? To function. So her power needs light to function. But I think we should limit it even more. Not just light, specifically white sunlight. We have 2 moons. White sunlight. Her power only works during the day. It only works during the day. There. That's a limitation. That means that when it's sunset, she has to figure out different ways of solving her own problem. All right. Needs light to function. Her shadow has a mind of its own. This is something that I've been thinking about. The whole point of this is that the shadows are creatures, right? That they take you over if you're not careful. So her shadow should have a mind of its own. Her shadow should be antagonistic to her. So it's something she has to work at controlling, because if she's not careful, it takes over. Which means she can't. So I sort of see it as her shadow being the relationship with her shadow that she slowly over time has to build, to the point where she can't do a full body transformation, because she does that, she's relinquishing to the shadow, it takes over. But eventually, she builds that relationship with the shadow, okay? And that'll be satisfying if we see it happen over time, okay? At some point, she's got to basically make friends with this antagonistic shadow. So she gets her initial control of it, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna stop fighting back. So it's gonna be a struggle. She's always got to balance that line of using the magic but not being taken over by it and keeping control of it. Okay. Her shadow needs a mind of its own. So, again, that weakness means she has to stay out of the state. All right. Now, one of the places where we can expand on this is eventually she learns how to use moonlight. And if you think about it, there's a logical reason for that, because the moonlight is just reflected sunlight. So she can create a weaker, smaller version of her shadow at night. That's going to be something that will expand over time. So again, eventually you can use moonlight. But the nighttime power should be different, right? I think so. I wonder if she could use the shadows to replace something like a lost limb. Wouldn't that be cool? Character who's like missing a leg or an arm, and during the day, everyone just doesn't think much of them because they're missing a leg or an arm. But then, during the nighttime, or during the day, when the sun comes out, they're able to use shadows to craft an arm. And then, so you have a character that's able to do things with 2 arms during the day, but at night, they only have 1 arm. That's pretty cool. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. I'm going to just kind of shrink this up so you guys can all see it. So, this is sort of what I wanted to focus on. Let's make this whole thing size 10. How much of this could you see? So an author's ability to solve a conflict direct proportional. So we don't even know what our final conflict is going to be yet. So we're going to keep this in mind. We need to keep constantly going back and thinking about this. We have our limitations. We have how we're going to expand it over time rather than just replacing it with something new. And we're going to err on the side of awesome. I just like this ability of, like, imagine a scene with her running in the middle of the day over rooftops, using her shadow to create long extension limbs to flip herself over the tops of buildings and catch herself before she can fall and fling herself really high. Oh, I mean, eventually, can she grow shadow wings? Why not? You know? Can she absorb other shadows? To grow her own? Does her shadow get larger over time? Okay? So we've got some ideas here. And I don't know, I just kind of, that's where everything for me comes from this. I have this image of the girl running across rooftops, either being chased or chasing someone, using shadows as an extension of her own body to fling herself around. And not just shadows against the surfaces. The shadow actually rises. It becomes a 3-dimensional creature that she attaches to her, but it has to be attached to her. Okay? It's not like she can create a body that goes wandering off and does its own thing. It has to be attached to her. Okay? So if she's falling, her shadow can catch, she can have a shadow that goes from her arm up to the wall, but she can't, like, send the shadow in to go see what's going on. Okay? So this is where I think we should keep our ideas for now. Cool. I like this. Good work. I am going to post this in the on the post for this episode so that people can comment on it. And then right now what I want to do is I want to go back to my draft and just try to write maybe 500 words or so. Okay, and I don't really feel like doing it, but I'm going to force myself to. Okay, let's check on our time. We're about 20 minutes in. So I'm going to give myself, honestly, let's just write a little bit. Okay, see what we can do. All right. So let's view, let's take our zoom up to fit. Wait, I want my zoom fit there. This should be easier for you guys to see. Eric Beasley, good job with all of your stuff. All right. So wait, hold on. 820 plus 50 means 8. Please, 500. 18, 19, 20, 12. So I need to get up to 2,300 words. Oh, I don't want to write. I'm going to force myself. Okay. Let's do this. Am I still on screen? Yeah. Eat. Oh, well. No music, I guess. All right, here we go. Right out the gate. That's not yet. What did I call that creature? I called it a Malk. This needs to be fixed. It's very weak. Okay. The harness was braided leather. Chitinous plates. Had no sensation. The leather and metal. So we need a new paragraph at this point. Which jutted out at the front with a, what did it jut out the front with? Concealed by the framing. Of the let's do gauze. I like the idea that even gauze covered slits that ran along the front, keeping out projectiles in sunlight. Not lifting, pulling. Glimpse of hope. Planks. Hit up the sides. All right, I think I have an idea how she's going to do this. In a shifting pattern of blue and yellow. The fittings of the icons were bronze and caught the moonlight and torchlight of the city in a shifting pattern of blue and yellow. Obeek stayed Clamming? No, calming. Hey, I've hit 500 words. I'm gonna have to adjust the timeline of this carriage. I should call it a wagon more often. She fought against the nervous. Expectant. Do you? All right, there. I need you to get run over. That's where she's going to take it. Okay, so this is like I said, I'm having a trouble writing today, so I focused on descriptions and I focused on trying to move it forward. I already know some notes that I have to do for myself. I know that I need to come up here, and I need to do a note. I need to adjust the timing of the wagon, okay? Because it's taking a long time for this wagon to get here. I need to not make it feel like they're sitting there talking for hours before the wagon gets there. If you're at all curious on what I'm going to have her do, what's going to end up happening is her original plan was to rob what was in the wagon. We don't even need to know what's in the wagon, but she was going to rob what's in the wagon. When she sees that it's a blackbone carriage, which we'll explain later, but the whole point is that it's a blackbone carriage. They can't break into a blackbone carriage. She thought it was going to be a normal fabric wagon that she was going to be able to cut into, steal stuff, and get out. But instead, it's a blackbone wagon, which means that it's much more valuable what's on the inside and probably guarded and very makes the job basically impossible. So here's her idea. She's going to have the wagon run over someone. Not really, but that's in essence what's going to happen. And then while the driver is dealing with the person that was run over, in this case, a very reluctant Obik, she's going to steal the mulk. She's going to steal the creature at the front and then sell it for money. We're going to learn that there's a trade in these creatures, that they're valuable. So in this moment, she's decided to shift from stealing what's in the wagon to stealing the creature pulling the wagon, because she can make that creature move much faster and she can get it to go away. That's how they're also going to get caught. She's not going to realize that the mulk is branded. Okay, so that's my notes right now in my head. I do know that she's going to steal the mulk, get away. Obeek's going to get away, but then they're going to get caught because the mulk was branded, and that's going to be our precipitating event. Okay, so we are at 2,386 words. That means we've written 500. Please comment on the words. Let's switch back to face view. There we go. So comment on here. We are at 42 minutes, so a 45-minute episode. That's great. Comment on the writing. Bring some ideas in. Do more than just grammar fixes, okay? And for the sake of the video, so just go in, make your comments, and we'll go from there, okay? I haven't gone through. I'll do an episode once there's more comments when I'm doing some quick editing, especially on a day when I'm not feeling like doing too much writing. I might throw 500 words on and then just do an edit video. But comment on the laws on the post, comment on the draft, and I will see you next time. I hope you're all doing well. All right, bye-bye.